Welcome to the Coalesce podcast, episode 5. My name is Grant.
And I'm Meg.
And we are going to jump in and do some more things. We're going to actually do the clicking thing and determine whether the answer is right or wrong. Kind of get a thing where you can click on an answer and then it'll show you whether it's right or wrong. And so what we want to do first, though, is it was kind of lame only having one question. So Meg went in and added a little more seating. And in this case, we didn't make it so you could add more stuff and then have it run again. We just blow away the database and make another one because it does the any check up here on that line up there on line 8. So it'll say, hey, if there's something in there, just seed in these two. So if you're following along, wipe the database and we'll go ahead and get going. So
yeah,
let's see. Let's pop up into the UI and take a look at what that looks like. There's probably a little change. I don't know, since we've only had one question, you should always seed in like multiple things. It's probably just good,
especially if you have a list. Yeah.
And somehow we've decided on states and capitals as or countries and capitals as what we're doing. And you can see the only thing here is that it's a little bit weird. There's no spacing in between there. It could be a little bit nicer.
So
let's just go ahead and add a little bit of spacing in between those two questions.
Yep. So to do that, we can just come into our question card where we're doing our 4, and we can say class, and bottom. We can just put a little space there. Maybe we do 2. So now at the bottom of each of these cards, you'll have that spacing. Yeah. You could also put this on the actual question card, but wherever you want to put it, wherever makes the most sense. So there's that. And
she says actual question card into the component. You could actually move that into the component.
The actual component. But then wherever you use that component, you'd have that margin bottom, which maybe
maybe you want, maybe not. Who knows? I mean, it's just kind of preference there. So okay, cool. So let's go ahead and make it so when you click on one of these little guys, we're going to get an answer.
Yeah. So to do that, we should probably head over to the question card. So we'll head over here. And to get started, let's just print out something to the console for when you click. So we'll open up the console on the side here. And on this chip, all we have to do is we have to hook up a click event. So with View, you just do @click equals, and then put the little action that you want. So for example, console log. Now, whenever I click these, you'll get that click.
Now we could also log out the answer object.
Yep.
Right.
So here instead we can do answer. And now whenever we click, we'll get.
And that's going to give us answer object. We can also do answer dot whatever. I mean, so anything you want to put in there. But really, you don't want to put all your code right inside your click event.
Yeah. So we should go make a function. So let's come down here, function. Select answer, and that's about what we want to do. Let's move our console log down here, just minimum solution.
And we really recommend kind of doing it this way, is that just do one thing and see if it works, and do another thing, see if it works. And that way, as you're learning, you don't get too many variables. You can just kind of learn a bit at a time, but keeping it running like this and just having it running on like the left-hand side or another monitor is a really nice way to do your debugging.
Yeah, and it also makes it obvious as soon as you run into a bug where that bug occurred, rather than writing all your code and then there's a couple bugs in there and you gotta go back.
Exactly. Yeah, it's easier to trace down one thing when only one thing's wrong than a whole bunch of things.
So okay, there we go.
Great. So now we need something that says like what's select. So we need to know which one they clicked on.
Yep. So to do that, the best way to do that is probably to just have another variable and save it there.
Now there's different kinds of variables. We could just declare a variable. But this is really kind of goes back to some of the view stuff. What really we want to declare something else, which is called a ref.
Yep.
And what a ref does is, if you know the observable pattern, if you haven't heard of that before, go check out the observable pattern. That's basically something where you have a container that you can tell when the contents changes. So you can basically do a publish and subscribe to the value of that container. Now, what that means is that you have to do things like have a dot value property, because if you just change the object, you're like literally blowing it away. So the observable pattern is really a wrapper. So you have this wrapper object that then has like usually like a dot value property or something like that, or maybe it's baked into the language if you're using a different language to do that. So here you see Meg set up a ref, and she gave it what kind it is. So it's either an answer view model or it's null, because it's important to understand your nullability in these situations, because it's going to start as null because nothing's going to be selected. That's important that nothing's selected. However, right here, we're then going to also say, hey, it can be an answer view model. It's going to start off null. And then down here, we're going to set it equal to whatever the answer is that gets passed in. So it's super easy the way you can deal. You don't have to like pass around IDs like that. You can actually pass around the real objects.
Also, I am going to get rid of this console log up here. I forgot to get rid of that.
Oh, yeah. Get rid of that thing. Oh, yeah.
Just need to call the thing. Okay. Great. So there's that. Now this is great. We have the answer and the selected answer kind of both printing out, but we want to change these colors. So I think what we want to do is when we click on the wrong answer, for example, London, we should turn that to be red, and we should turn the correct answer to be green. And
If you happen to select the right one, we should just turn the one you clicked on green.
Yeah. So if you clicked
and everything else
Paris,
stays gray.
then that should turn green.
Great. So it took us a hot second to figure out exactly what this logic would be. But I think we basically have it. So what we want to do is we want to change the color of the chip basis. Now, we could do some other ways you could do this. You create a component for the chip, but then you actually have to pass quite a bit of data. You have to pass, is it the right answer? Is it the selected answer? And has an answer been selected? So you have to like pass 3 things in. We thought it's actually probably simpler to do it at this level. You totally could make a component, but we're just going to do that right here. And we're going to set the color of the chip. So how do we set the color of that chip?
Yeah, good question. And there's a little thing happening here. I'm not sure what. This is interesting, but we can kind of come back to that, I think.
So what's the issue that we're running into?
Looks like we're getting a call.
Oh, so we have a call set issue.
This is that thing where I think it's the node modules seem to be upset.
Well, let's go down and where's let's check that code out down in your function there that we're calling.
Yeah.
All we're doing is setting the selected answer, and the selected answer isn't being used anywhere else. And when I usually try to find these, I will take out code. So like I'll remove that click event. Like let's just get rid of the click event, or get rid of the contents of the click event, something like that, and then save it. And okay, great. So that works. So now we're good. So we can put it back and then take out like the selected answer. Take out that down there.
That seems like it's upset for some.
And then we'll take out that because now the problem's above that.
And let's just refresh because sometimes
take out line. Well, is it complaining about? Oh, that's we still in the stack problem.
Oh, it's like that guy there maybe. So we save that. That's okay. So that has a little issue. It's similar, you kind of do that hot save. So if we get rid of this guy.
Yeah, and the hot save works pretty well. So when you save, it's going to update, but every once in a while that doesn't work out. So so something here is causing us to have a loop, right? Where it's looping.
Yeah.
Now
it seems to only be on that refresh. It might be an issue with an npm package. So I think I might tackle that offline. I think it'll work. It looks like when I do a hard refresh, it'll kind of work. But let's get our logic working.
Great.
And we'll come back to that.
Awesome.
Okay. So sorry. Yeah. First thing we're going to do is we probably want a new function.
Right. So how do you change it? How do you change the color? What does that mean?
Yeah. So to change the color.
So we want to change all the colors to like purple or whatever.
Yeah. So all we got to do is color equals, and then, well, in this case, if we're going to hard code it, you're going to put in a variable, you're going to use just a string value, not a variable. And then you can say blue, and now they're all blue.
Oh, what if I want a darker blue?
You can do blue, and then I think it's dash darken. I might not know this off the top of my head.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Very
great. So you can just kind of just darken or lighten. It's a really cool thing. This is a beautify feature. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, lighten is not very readable, but that's okay.
Awesome. Now, if I wanted to use a variable in there instead of just a hard code color, I'm going to use the colon, and then we can just literally just call a function. Now, we could use an observable here. The problem is that we can't pass a variable into the observable. So for this color, we have to determine the color for the currently selected chip.
Yep.
Right. So that's where it's going to get a little bit weird. So we can't just use an observable. Now, if we were down in a function, down in a component that was the chip, we could then use an observable because you wouldn't have to pass anything because the object itself in the component is the chip, is the answer.
We could, but then you would lose a little more context of the question. And all
yeah.
that.
So it's kind of it's just there's always these trade-offs of what do you pass around. So we're just going to make an answer color. Great. And we're going to pass in the answer object to that. So we know which one's going. So you got to remember, we're iterating through that list of answers, and we're going to call answer color for this particular answer. And now we need to do some work to figure out what does that logic look like. So the first thing we should say is if nothing's selected, it should always return gray.
Yes.
I don't know how close. I can't imagine that it would get close to us.
It's
wow.
It's a little. It is close.
It's close. I mean, you gotta check this stuff out. But
yeah.
So if the selected answer, if the selected answer dot value is null, and this is the way you have to do this. Whenever you have a ref, you're going to have to choose that dot value. If you're going to set it, you have to set it to dot value. So that we can set the gray. So now the second thing we want to do is say if the answer that's selected. So now anything that down below, we're going to assume that something's been selected. So as we fall through this if, so we're going to say if the one that is, if it's the correct answer, then we should color it green.
Yep. So instead of this, we're going to say selected answer dot value equals question dot. Oops. We're going to have to do props. So you see here, I've got my props is set to this.
Now, one thing to note, when you're doing in your code down here, when you're doing props in your code, you have to say props dot. If you're up in your actual, your HTML, your view code, you don't have to be props. It automatically takes all the props variables and puts them up as tuple verbs. So you can't ever have a prop that's the same.
Your dot value too.
Right. So you don't need to use dot value. It just automatically knows how to unwrap all those observables for you.
And something on top of that too, that's good to know is actually these view models. These are all automatically refs for you. So if you make a new view model, you'll notice like over here on our questions, I didn't wrap this in a ref. This is already a reactive and value for you. So you don't need to wrap those in refs. Just a side note.
And actually, when you do wrap something in a ref, all of the child objects are then wrapped as what they would call reactive. And so there's a difference between ref and reactive. Reactive are just child objects where you can't actually change the object, but all the children can be changed. But the refs, you can actually change the value. So if you have like a number or something like that you're trying to track, it's going to be a ref. And in general, folks typically just use refs. But there are times when you want a reactive where you're never going to change the underlying object, the main parent object. You're just going to change children. And then a reactive is a good choice for you.
Yep. And now the last thing we're going to do is we want to turn it to red if you select the wrong answer.
Right.
And this is where maybe it got a little confusing, but I think what we want to do is we want to say if the selected answer equals the answer in this loop.
Yes,
because we're assuming that this is already checked. And if this doesn't return success,
it has to be wrong.
It's probably wrong.
Yeah, it has to be wrong. So either it's right or yeah. So now we can say, hey, if the answer is whatever the selected answer is, then we're going to return.
Yeah. And actually what I should be doing here is I should be checking the IDs. So let me go back and kind of do that.
Right. And so why would you want to check the IDs?
So the reason that you want to check the IDs is that the IDs are a much more direct one-to-one check, whereas what's happening here is I'm doing checks against objects, which I might be wrong about how this works in JavaScript, but for example, in C#, that could equate to false because they're technically different objects.
Right, it's setting a different object. So yeah, but in this case, they probably will be the same, but it's something to be aware of that I think in this case it would probably work. But when you're doing these checks, doing that is oftentimes a really good idea. Just go ahead and check the IDs instead, because those will always be the same regardless of what object it is. And then at the end, we're going to fall through. We fall through it all. It means that it wasn't the right answer. It wasn't a selected answer. Then it must be gray. It's just one of the other answers.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
Say our prayers and click some buttons.
Okay. So capital France, let's get it wrong. Okay. So that sort of worked, but we didn't get our green one to highlight. So let's try refreshing and let's try if we get the right one. Okay. So something's a little
off. So okay. So let's take a look and see what our code says. We must have. Sometimes when Copilot helps you, it doesn't help you all the way.
Yeah.
We'll just blame Copilot. It's really fun to blame our own mistakes on Copilot.
So the issue is probably in this line here, where it's turning to green. So if selected answer dot value dot answer ID equals props question correct answer ID. So if we've selected the answer, so if I click Paris, for example, we set that answer to our selected answer. Then when that equals question not correct answer dot answer ID, we should return success. So something else that might be handy here is maybe.
So okay, so what in that second line there, we're never checking the answer, the one that's being passed in.
Oh, yep, we need to
see what's going on there.
Okay, so maybe we could just do an and here, or would you rather do another if?
So we can say that if the selected answer, so if this one is the selected answer, then so yes, we have to do a double check, right? There's two things we have to check. So
we could move this if and wrap the whole thing and then just do it like an if else here.
Yeah, great.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, or we can make it simple too. Just do it. I think we just have a fall through rather than doing layers.
Okay, so
that's pretty easy.
We can do something like this. That look right? Select an answer value equals answer ID.
So if the answer is the right answer and it's the one that's selected, then make it green.
Yep. There we go. So that works. Now,
Right.
the issue here is that it might not highlight green correctly when we click.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, actually, I think all we need to do is see if it's the selected answer. If if this one is the selected answer, then it's green.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, if this one is the correct answer, make it green. So that's it. So actually, we can remove that and just remove and make it simpler. So you can just say answer.answer ID equals props dot question.
Yes, equals props question dot correct
Correct answer dot answer. Yeah. See, we don't even need the end.
Yeah.
Take out the little ampersands at the end.
Okay, so we've got answer ID equals the correct answer. Yeah, because that was silly. We weren't checking selected answer. We're checking just whatever answer it was. Okay, let's try again. So we'll click the wrong one. Okay, that is.
Hey, look at that.
So that was a pretty simple little issue there.
Okay, let's go ahead and try the other one. We got to test all of our different cases here.
Now that one works. And
does anyone actually know what the capital Canada is? I mean, I'm sure all our Canadian listeners do.
I think we got it wrong.
We did.
We picked Toronto.
It was an epic fail for the Coalesce team, and yeah. Anyway, so we now know a lot about the capital of Ottawa because we did some googling beforehand.
Yep. So there we go. That is working. So yeah, that was just a silly mistake there. Just to reiterate, we had selected answer here. We just wanted to check the answer.
In this case, you should check every one, and that's why we saw the results that we saw there.
Yep.
So yeah, these are little issues you have to work through, get the logic right. So now we have effectively a working app, a little bit of stuff that's going on. So I think that's basically going to wrap it up. Anything else we want to do for this particular?
No, I think the next thing we want to do is maybe just show how to edit things.
Great. So we can, hey, you want to like just change a question. Like let's say you misspelled something or something like that.
Yep, change a question, maybe adding questions, removing questions, things like that.
Cool, because that Coalesce makes that super easy to do. So awesome. Well, hey, until next time, keep doing Coalesce things.